cable installer named David Brown experienced a comical mishap when he became trapped in a hot attic in Florida. While working on a house on Chesterfield Road, he crawled into space and couldn't get out. The residents downstairs heard his cries for help and called 911. Fire and EMS arrived quickly and decided to cut an unload-bearing truss to free him. Fortunately, Brown was unharmed, although he noted the extreme heat of the attic. The incident highlights the potential dangers of working in confined spaces, particularly in hot climates. Brown was given the rest of the day off to recover. Attics in Florida during July can reach extremely high temperatures, posing a risk of heat stroke and exhaustion. Working in such conditions requires careful planning and precautions. Firstly, it's essential to stay hydrated by drinking plenty of water or electrolyte drinks throughout the day. Secondly, take frequent breaks in a cooler environment to allow your body to recover. Thirdly, wear lightweight, breathable clothing to minimize heat absorption. Fourthly, avoid strenuous activity during the hottest parts of the day. Fifthly, be aware of the signs of heat exhaustion, such as dizziness, headache, nausea, and rapid heartbeat. Sixthly, if you experience any of these symptoms, stop working immediately and seek medical attention. In addition to the heat, attics can also present other hazards, such as poor ventilation, dust, and allergens. These factors can contribute to respiratory problems and other health issues. Firstly, wear a dust mask or respirator to protect yourself from airborne particles. Secondly, ensure adequate ventilation by opening windows or using fans. Thirdly, avoid prolonged exposure to dust and allergens. Confined spaces, like attics, can also pose a risk of entrapment, as demonstrated by Brown's experience. Firstly, always assess the space before entering to identify potential hazards and escape routes. Secondly, inform someone of your location and estimated time of completion. Thirdly, use appropriate safety equipment, such as a harness and lifeline, if necessary. Fourthly, avoid crawling into tight spaces where you could become stuck. Electrical hazards are also a concern in attics, as wiring and equipment may be exposed or damaged. Firstly, always de-energize circuits before working on electrical systems. Secondly, inspect wiring for signs of damage or wear. Thirdly, use insulated tools and equipment. Fourthly, be aware of the location of electrical panels and disconnect switches. Animal infestations are another potential problem in attics, as rodents, insects, and other pests can create unsanitary conditions and transmit diseases. Firstly, seal any openings or cracks that could allow animals to enter. Secondly, remove any food or water sources that could attract pests. Thirdly, use traps or pesticides to control infestations. Fourthly, wear protective clothing and gloves when handling animal droppings or contaminated materials. Building codes and safety regulations address many of these hazards and provide guidance for safe work practices. It's important to be familiar with these regulations and to follow them carefully. Furthermore, employers have a responsibility to provide a safe working environment for their employees. This includes providing adequate training, equipment, and supervision. Employees also have a responsibility to follow safety procedures and to report any hazards or concerns to their supervisors. In the specific case of cable installation, there are additional considerations to keep in mind. Firstly, avoid damaging existing wiring or equipment. Secondly, use appropriate cable supports and fasteners. Thirdly, ensure that cables are properly grounded. Fourthly, follow manufacturer's instructions for cable installation. When working at heights, such as on roofs or ladders, fall protection is essential. Firstly, use a ladder that is long enough to reach the work area safely. Secondly, ensure that the ladder is placed on a stable surface. Thirdly, use a safety harness and lifeline when working at heights of 6 feet or more. Fourthly, be aware of overhead power lines and other hazards. In addition to the physical hazards of attic work, there are also potential psychological stressors such as claustrophobia and anxiety. Firstly, be aware of your own limitations and comfort levels. Secondly, take breaks when needed to manage stress. Thirdly, seek support from colleagues or supervisors if you are feeling overwhelmed. Effective communication is crucial for ensuring safety on the job site. Firstly, communicate clearly with colleagues and supervisors about potential hazards and concerns. Secondly, use hand signals or other forms of communication when verbal communication is difficult. Thirdly, be aware of the location of emergency communication devices. Proper planning and preparation are essential for minimizing risks and ensuring a safe working environment. Firstly, assess the work area for potential hazards. Secondly, develop a plan for completing the work safely. Thirdly, gather the necessary tools and equipment. Fourthly, communicate the plan to all team members. Continuous improvement is an ongoing process that involves identifying and addressing safety issues. Firstly, regularly review safety procedures and practices. Secondly, solicit feedback from employees about potential improvements. Thirdly, implement changes based on feedback and analysis. Training and education are crucial for ensuring that workers have the knowledge and skills necessary to perform their job safely. Firstly, provide comprehensive training on safety procedures and practices. Secondly, offer refresher courses to reinforce training. Thirdly, keep workers updated on new technologies and safety regulations. Personal protective equipment, or PPE, is essential for protecting workers from hazards. Firstly, provide appropriate PPE such as gloves, eye protection, and respiratory protection. Secondly, ensure that PPE is properly fitted and maintained. Thirdly, train workers on how to use PPE effectively. Emergency preparedness is crucial for responding to accidents and other emergencies. Firstly, develop an emergency response plan. Secondly, conduct regular drills to practice emergency procedures. Thirdly, ensure that emergency equipment is readily available. Incident reporting and investigation are essential for identifying the root causes of accidents and preventing future incidents. Firstly, encourage workers to report all incidents, regardless of severity. Secondly, conduct thorough investigations of incidents to identify root causes. Thirdly, implement corrective actions to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. Safety culture is the shared values, beliefs, and attitudes about safety within an organization. Firstly, create a culture that values safety above all else. Secondly, encourage workers to take ownership of safety. Thirdly, recognize and reward safe behavior. Risk assessment is a process of identifying and evaluating potential hazards and risks. Firstly, identify potential hazards. Secondly, assess the likelihood and severity of each risk. Thirdly, implement control measures to mitigate risks. Hazard control is the process of eliminating or reducing hazards. Firstly, eliminate hazards whenever possible. Secondly, if hazards cannot be eliminated, implement control measures to reduce the risk. Thirdly, use a hierarchy of controls, starting with the most effective and ending with the least effective. Safety inspections are a way to identify potential hazards and ensure that safety procedures are being followed. Firstly, conduct regular safety inspections. Secondly, use a checklist to ensure that all areas are inspected. Thirdly, document the results of inspections and take corrective action as needed. Housekeeping is essential for maintaining a safe and organized work environment. Firstly, keep work areas clean and free of clutter. Secondly, properly store tools and equipment. Thirdly, dispose of waste materials properly. Ergonomics is the science of designing workplaces and tasks to fit the human body. Firstly, design workplaces and tasks to minimize physical strain. Secondly, provide adjustable equipment to accommodate different body sizes and shapes. Thirdly, train workers on proper lifting techniques. Environmental hazards can also be present in attics, such as asbestos and lead. Firstly, be aware of the potential for environmental hazards. Secondly, if you suspect that asbestos or lead is present, have the area tested by a qualified professional. Thirdly, follow appropriate safety procedures when working with these materials. Finally, remember that safety is everyone's responsibility. By working together, we can create a safe and healthy work environment for all. So even though the cable installer's situation may have seemed comical in hindsight, it serves as a reminder of the importance of safety precautions when working in potentially hazardous environments like attics. Remember to prioritize safety and take necessary steps to protect yourself and others.